Alright guys, thanks for coming back for another custom video. My name is US Agent 27. I'm from the MUCollectorClub.com forums. If you watched the first two parts of the video, you know that what we're doing is we're showing you guys how to take a Thunderball, Marvel Legends size Thunderball figure or pile driver figure and actually turn them into a Bulldozer. Because word has it that Hasbro is not putting out Bulldozer. He was supposed to be out, but they're now saying that he will not be seen in 2014. That they're going to try to get him out at some point. Who knows? Honestly, I didn't really want to wait. So I made my own. And I actually already did finish one. If you guys want to see pictures of that, make sure you guys go check out MUCollectorClub.com. This one I'm working on right now, this is the second one I've built. This one is actually waiting out to Mesozoic on our site, aka Danny. So Danny, if you're watching, this is how I paint. And again, I'm not an expert at painting, but I figured it'd be kind of cool to show you the stuff I use, how I go about it, and get it on video. And then once I'm done, I'll give you guys a sneak peek of the next project that I've got completed, and I'll show you guys how I made it. It's really cool, so you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. So alright, so we have this was a pile driver base, so it wasn't the Thunderball base. And what I did is I took a Dremel, and I don't know if you guys can see this or not on the camera, but I dremeled down the joints pretty well. I sanded them all down, and then I basically painted the entire figure black. I missed a couple spots on his face because I'm going to go do that with an actual paintbrush, and I'm almost out of black paint. I left his hands the way they were because I will go back over those with probably like a white or a gray as a base, and then I'll paint the flesh color on top, and then I'll apply another wash of a different type of flesh on top of that, just to give it a little bit of definition. All these little sculpt details, these are those googly eye things that I showed off in the first video. I don't know if you guys can see that. But again, everything is all black based. It doesn't have to be perfect like you see, like right there. I missed a couple spots. It's got a little bit of paint rub right there. So when I go over it, if I still see I'm getting some paint rub, what I'll do is I'll actually sand down his upper thigh joint just so it doesn't rub. This side doesn't seem to be having a problem, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what kind of paints I'm going to use and what kind of brushes. That's a question I get asked a lot, is what materials do I use? And I'm doing everything in the bathroom. I do it in the bathroom for two reasons. A, it doesn't annoy my girlfriend. And B, it makes sure I don't make a mess. So let me set that aside and let's talk about paint brushes real quick. For paint brushes, honestly, it doesn't matter what kind you use. Some people are going to tell you to go out and get the most expensive paintbrushes or whatever. I get whatever's on sale. If I go into Walmart, I'll buy like a 5 or 6 pack of these cheapo brushes, and this is what I use. I do have some Games Workshop brushes that are smaller and thinner for like painting eyes. Those are really good. Those are worth like the $5 you pay for the brush. Otherwise, just grab one of these, and these will work pretty well. Keep them clean, and you'll be fine. As far as paints, to base coat him, I use the Model Master Acryl, flat black, and you can see I've used most of this bottle. I need to actually pick up a new bottle of it. I use this pretty much for whenever I am black basing anything. It works great as a primer. It makes it so I don't have to throw a lot of paint on top of it. It helps add in the definition, which you guys are going to see when I show you how to dry brush. For the silver parts, I've actually got two different silvers. I've got a regular, again, Model Master Acryl silver, and then I've got an aluminum. What I'm going to do is, this is the darker color, so this is going to go on first over the black. And then this, I will hit the highlights on all his rivets, I think. I think that'll make it look really cool. Alright, on the last Bulldozer I just used this one color. It was a Troll Slayer Orange by Citadel. And I dry brushed it on, and it came out really, really nice. It was darker than it actually looks. So if you guys are freaked out by that bright orange, it comes out darker because we're going to dry brush it over the black. But I had to fix a custom that someone made for me. So I had to go out and get some paint to match, and I grabbed this Squig Orange, which is a darker orange. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put this as the base coat underneath. And then when I go to do my third or fourth layer of dry brushing, I'll put this on top to kind of hit the highlights. So don't be afraid to layer your paints. Do light layers though. You don't want to gob it on. You want to do nice, light, even layers if you can, kind of like spray painting. And as you guys can see, yes, I did cut my thumb customizing. I'm making a Iron Patriot figure to go with my Dark Avengers, which is going to be a hint for what you guys are going to see at the end of the video. And then for the flesh, my friend Diego turned me onto this. It's Ghoul Flesh by Model Masters Acryl. This stuff is great. I really like this for the flesh paint, and it's great. It's just, even if you don't want to put tones in it, you can. This works great just on its own. What I normally do is I'll paint everything with this, and then I'll lightly go over it with a different color skin tone, and just kind of dry brush that on. Let it dry, and then I'll seal everything up, and it looks phenomenal when I'm done, if I do say so myself. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get started in paint. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some of the silver dry brushing. So I don't have a lot of paint in my bottle, so hopefully I have enough to get through at least part of this. What you want to do is shake up your paint. Again, a lot of this is common sense, and as you can see, there's not a lot in there. You want to get a paper towel or something like that, or a napkin, your pants, whatever. I'm going to set that aside and pick a paintbrush you want to use. I'm going to go ahead and use this smaller one. You could use a larger one for this, it doesn't really matter. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of the paint, put some on my brush, kind of brush it off, and I'm going to brush it on the paper towel. Then you're going to take your figure and you're lightly going to brush it on the figure. And you're probably saying to yourself at this point, why don't you just paint on the figure? Well, if you do that, you're going to get rid of the nice black undertones that you have on there. Again, you can lightly see where I've just got a little bit of paint on there. Now, to be honest with you, this technique takes a while. I'm going to pop his head off just so I can work with just the figure, because I'll do the head last. But this technique does take a little while to get done. I mean, you could literally spend a couple hours just dry brushing one little section of a figure, only to find out that, you know, you're not even halfway done. So again, I'm just going to kind of go over it. And then I'm going to start going over this side. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect at this point because this is just the first layer of paint. I'm probably going to go over this figure at least 3 or 4 times with the silver. And if you notice, it doesn't even look like I'm really getting that much on there. You can not dab as much off. There we go, that's looking a little bit better. Again, this is a darker silver. This is going to be my base layer. Don't worry about being messy because you can always touch it up with the other colors you're going to use. And now I'm going to start working on the back a little bit. Try to get where you guys can see that. If you notice you have a little too much paint in one area, just move it around. And keep your brush moving. And like I said, all we're trying to do now is just get a nice little light layer of silver paint on the top. And you can see already, I've got a little bit of paint there. It looks good. Okay, now I'm just going to move his arms out because I'm going to do his armbands too, since I have the silver out. And like that's what I mean, you want to try to hit as much as you can with the same color at the same time. It's going to help your speed and getting customs done. It's also going to help make sure that the paint is being applied in the same general way. Again, there's not a lot's coming through the black just yet, but again, this is just the first layer of paint. There's going to be at least 2 more layers. And I'm going to hit it with that lighter aluminum color later too. So this is what it takes to make a custom figure. You really just want to take your time and pick a project, you know, challenge yourself. If you know you can do a simple repaint, you know what, try sculpting. If you can sculpt, try, doing something else that's a little bit more challenging. Don't just rest on your laurels. Don't be afraid to try new things. Hit this belt a little bit. Again, I'm not really worried if I'm getting the black in the background, because that's going to have the orange on it anyway. And if I happen to notice that it's not looking right, I can always go over paint back over with black, and then just start from scratch. And that might be what happens when I get down to his waistline. I think I had to do that in the last one. Is I got all the way down, and I didn't really paint it very neatly. I just kind of went through and quickly painted it up, and then I went back and I just did some adjustments. So already he's looking pretty awesome. He's got his silver going on against the black. It looks really nice. Yeah, let's see if I can get the camera to focus on that. The tones are coming through, like you can see his muscle definition in there, and that's really what you want to see. You want to try to keep it so you can see a little bit of the black shining through, so it's not just, you're not just painting over something. I see a lot of customizers that do that, and a lot of people when they first start out that do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But as you get more advanced, don't be afraid to try new things, When I first started doing this and I started painting figures all black, I was scared at first, because what happens if I screw it up, or what happens if it doesn't look right when I'm done? And that's a risk you take. That's why you start off on, junk figures, or figures that aren't that expensive, or figures you can readily replace. If I'm doing a custom, I usually make sure either one of two things. Either I have a double of the figure, or I know where I can get a double really quickly. So as soon as I'm done with my custom, I can replace it. That's the worst thing. You don't want to use expensive figures for customs if you can get away with it. Sometimes you're going to have that project that's just going to require, hey, I need this figure for a base, or I need a part off of this figure. And that's the worst. That's when you try to find people in the community who cast parts. The Casting Cave is a great place to look for that. Corey over there does a phenomenal job. He actually just casted up the the Han and Carbonite from the Star Wars Black series. He also will cast weapons, guns, heads. If you need something cast, shoot him an email through his website. It's, I think, castingcave.ecrater.com. If you Google Casting Cave, it comes right up. But he's got some really nice stuff. I order from him probably a couple times a month, just to get random things in that I could use for projects. And again, I'm not really worried about exactly how well this looks just yet, because this is only the first layer of paint. That's more or less all I'm going to do on the silver. And normally I would let this dry all the way. I would probably go over another couple times with the silver. But we're here to do a video, so I'm going to show you how we're going to do the orange. So I have a cup of water handy. All I'm going to do with my brush is I'm just going to rinse it out and then dry it off and let it air dry. I don't really use chemicals to clean the brushes unless it's a paint that's really it's been caked down for a while, and I try not to let my paint set that long. I try to get at it right away. So that's basically what I'm going to do with the silver for right now. Again, I might need to put more of that on there. I think the next layer, I might do another layer with this silver, and then another layer on top of that, final layer with the aluminum. But I do want to kind of show you how the oranges are going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the darker orange, or the, what's it called? Squig orange. Shake up the bottle a little bit. And I really like these Citadel paints for this reason, because what's going to happen is when I open this up, check it out, it stays open, which is great. Got my paint, I'm good to go. Now for this one, I'm going to use a little bit larger of a brush. I'm probably going to use this one, or you know what, maybe I might use this one here, and then a little bit longer. And the reason why I want to do that is because I am going to quickly paint the figure. Now when you dry brush like this, again, you're going to be doing multiple layers, so the first layer doesn't have to be 100% perfect. In fact, I'm probably going to get some orange paint over the silver that I just went over. that's perfectly fine, because you can always touch it up and tweak it. And all I do is I grab about that much paint, fold my paper towel over, and basically I wipe that paint off the brush so there's just very little paint left, and then I just go over the figure. Yeah, this is going to work really nice, I think, with the darker orange. In fact, I may repaint my figure that I already did, because I really like the way this paint's looking. And now what you can see is I mean, that looks awesome, and I haven't really done anything to this figure yet. And I'm just lightly going over it. I'm not really pressing too hard with the brush. If you notice in this corner, there's a little piece which looks like where I missed it with the black paint. That's okay. What I'm going to try to do is just try to hit it with this darker orange and see if I can cover up, because it's a white paint, so I should cover. And then what I'll do is later on, I'll just hit it again to make sure I have it covered. You know, in worst case scenario, if you make a mistake like this, let's say that I was doing this and I wasn't paying attention and I went over something I wasn't supposed to go over, it's okay, it's just paint. You can always paint over it when you're done. But yeah, I really like the way this orange is coming out. I think Danny's going to like it too. So again, we got his arm going. And I'm just going to turn back to the side. And I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I mean, I only have a little bit. And all I'm doing is I'm just dabbing it in the bucket, if you will, or the paint can. And I'm just quickly going over it. With the brush. One thing I hate is I hate painting joints. When you're painting joints, you want to do extremely light layers, because what's going to happen is if you don't, when you go to move your figure, you're going to get all kinds of paint rub. So that's basically the... Oh, I missed the spot there. It's really hard to do this part on camera, but... There we go. So that's basically the one arm is more or less the first coat of paint is on there. And it looks pretty good. I really like the orange. I think it's going to look great. I might actually not even do the darker or the lighter orange, except for on the chest, because I think this orange matches up more with the, well, I think it matches more with the comics anyway. Alright, so I got some paint on the arm. Let me let you guys look at that. And you see, I still have a little bit of black coming through the paint. And that's really what you want. So like, I'm going to move this arm down just so you guys can see the difference. And my camera doesn't want to focus. There it goes. So again, you can kind of see the difference there. So I move the arm down. This paint is pretty dry to the touch, which is another nice thing about dry brushing. The paint dries very, very quickly. So you can work, like normally I would skip to the other side, but I'm just going to work this side real quick. I'm trying not to get too much paint on the silver. If I do, I do. I still have a, oh, see, I just got a bunch on there. Wipe it right off if you can. If you're quick enough, you can wipe it right off. And we're good. So I'm going to move this back up. And you want to test for paint rub by moving the joints around. When I get all the way done with the figure, I'm going to seal the figure with a protector. And what I like to use, and this other guy I talk to all the time, Big Hank on our forums, he's a master customizer. He's given me a lot of great tips over the past year or two that I've known him. And he turned me on to this stuff called floor polish. Yeah, that's all it is Future Pledge Floor Polish with Future Shine. And I gotta tell you, at first I was very, very skeptical. I thought he was pulling my leg. And the stuff works phenomenally on figures. I'm just going to hit that. Again, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. You just want to kind of get light paint layers. You don't want to cake on that paint. That's another mistake I see a lot of people make, is when they first start out, they'll paint everything a solid color. And if you look out in, like, you know, the world, and you don't see things that are solid color. You see things with definition, you know. If you go to the beach and you're looking at pretty girls walking by, they're not one solid color. If you look at their bodies and they're in shape, they look good. You know, they've got definition to them. So that looks good on the front. It's on the back. Yeah, I really like this orange. Danny, I think you'll be pleased. Hopefully you guys are liking these videos. We are trying to do a couple of different types of things on the site right now. We just had a Thor contest in celebration of his new movie. I haven't seen it yet. I heard it was really good though. Hopefully I'll get up to that in the next couple of days or so. And when you're painting too, this is another thing I forgot to mention. You guys are going to develop your own style. Like, don't ask me how it happens, it just does. Like, when I first started painting, I would paint everything a solid color. And now I use this technique all the time. So my customs are not going to look like somebody else's. I prefer almost like I hate to put it this way, but like a dirtier custom. You know, I think that it's more real. It's more, it looks more realistic, if you will. See, that's Mr. Bulldozer. He's looking badass. Yeah, I think I might repaint mine this color. I really like the way the color's coming through. We'll see when he's all the way done, though. Alright, so I'm just going to push his arm down. But yeah, like I was saying, you're going to develop your own personal little techniques for doing things, whether it be sculpting, painting, even just like putting parts together. I mean, some people, they like to use the same body over and over again for customs. Bucky Cap is a phenomenal figure. He's a peg warmer too, which is crazy, because that figure, that body on him, it's got really nice articulation. And if you notice, like, Hasbro's been using it left and right, and there's a reason for that. It's because it works. I mean, the figure, you know, you could take a Bucky Cap and make him into just about anything. In fact, one of the projects I'm going to do next, once I'm done with this guy and the other project I'll show you at the end of the video, is I'm going to basically turn this Bucky Cap with this bullseye head on him into Dark Hawkeye. It's going to take a lot of sculpt work, but he's going to look badass when I'm done. Alright, so yeah. Again, when you get to the joints, you just want to kind of like, almost like really lightly dry brush them. Like, that might even be too much paint right there, but because you want that paint to stick, and that's why you have to really sand down the joints. Some figures, you don't really have to. There's one figure I was just working on not too long ago where I barely had to sand anything. Pile driver, you really, when I built the first Bulldozer, I didn't have to really sand too much. I got a little paint rub here and there, but overall it wasn't bad. And what I'll do is, once I'm done, let this dry all the way, I'll crack the joints. Basically what I mean is I'll bend the elbows so I can get the other sides. And then if any paint is chipped off, I'll make sure I hit that really good. You're going to get in that joint. You know, sometimes they make those joints of a different material, and you really have to sand them and grind them down. Other times they're very soft. I've had some figures where, like, even, you know, just messing around with the knees and whatnot, and they're very soft. And just by messing with the figure, you could end up breaking it. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get this so you guys can see. Alright, so now I got Bulldozer going. I got his top section done, more or less. Crack him down. Again, I do have orange paint going on his belt. I'm not really worried about that yet, because, again, I'm going to fix it. But he's looking really good, if I do say so myself. So I'm just going to shake up the paint and we'll get to his legs. And then maybe we'll try applying some of that lighter orange on them. Just a little bit, just to see what it looks like. But I'm really, really digging this darker orange. And that's what I mean. Don't be afraid to try new things. Like, one of the other customs that I build a lot are Deadpools. Everyone, likes the Deadpool. Hasbro kind of screwed us over on the red Deadpool we were supposed to get. They shipped them over to Europe, and they put them in like a TJ Maxx type of store for like $5. So, I started making my own, and I usually use the Bucky Cap base for it. And I usually build them more or less the same way. But don't be afraid to experiment. Just because you've been doing it one way doesn't mean anything else. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try new things. So the way that this one is, the way the material is, it's going down this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of hit it like this, very, very lightly. And then up here I'll hit it this way so I get that leg definition, because I want to keep that. Down here I have this, I don't know, it's almost like corduroy pants I guess he's wearing. I want to make sure I try to keep as much of that as I can. So don't be afraid to flip your brush and flip the figure. That might be a little too much paint right there. If you get too much paint like that, just dab it and then quickly try to move the paint out of there. There we go. Still might be a little too much. But again, once you move it around, it looks pretty good. So he's coming out pretty good, You dab the paint on the paper towel, and right there in this crotch, he's got that joint. And I'm just gonna go back and forth, kind of like feathering almost. Again, I know I'm getting orange paint all over that nice silver I painted, but again, that silver was just base coat. I will probably spend more time on that silver than anything else to make sure it's right. Make sure you hit the backs of the legs really good, because that's where paint likes to chip usually. And usually with mine, if it's something I'm keeping, I don't really care if it's got a little bit of paint chip on it, but this is actually going to somebody, so I'm going to try to get as much of that paint to adhere as possible, so he doesn't have any problems. He can pose his figure, because even though it's a custom, you should be able to pose it. That's part of the fun of having an action figure. Alright, so I'm just going to switch my hand, and I'll start working on this side. And again, I'm just going to kind of go through and feather in the paint. So it starts looking like that. That might be a little bit light. Grab some more. So as you can see, like, this video is probably, I think we're clocking in at about half an hour, so I'm going to cut it short pretty soon. But this is basically how I paint the figure. Again, I use this technique for any kind of paint, not just Bulldozer. If I'm doing a Deadpool, I'll paint the whole thing black, and then I'll hit with red, and then I'll do the detail lines back in black when it's, once he's dry. And what that does is it lets me get a nice, dirty, realistic look to the figure. And that's really what I'm looking for, That's like my signature look, more or less, I guess. Any custom I do, I try to, give it that same type of look. And that's what I'm talking about. You're going to develop your own style. I know if you guys are scared of starting customs, just pick up a figure, Pick up a lot on eBay. You can find lots all the time for like really, really cheap figures, like $10, $15. And take one of those and just mess around with it.